Hey, it's Don, the Auction Professor. Today is Sunday, so again, it's going to be another What's Sold on eBay. As usual, I just picked some random items. I've included the categories as well as some thoughts on the actual categories and why I use them, because I've had a lot of questions on that specifically. So we're going to go over the screen, and I'm going to show you some items we sold. Okay, the first item here is a retail arbitrage item. Now, I've sold quite a few. I listed just a couple at a time. I've talked about this before. Never list too many of the same item all at once, because it kind of kills the aspect of it being scarce or hard to find. So just keep that in mind. This is toys, action figures. There's actually a video game section. That's where this one was at. I marked it down $33.50. I've got about $4 or $5, I think, in any one of these. Now, I had like 62 of these at one time, and this is honestly the very last one. The cheapest I took on any of these was this price right here, the last one. I just brought it down just to blow it out. But anyway, retail arbitrage can work for you if you know what you're doing and you pay close attention. You have to be careful on some of the retail arbitrage too, because you could buy a bunch of them and it's just on the verge of being useless because everybody's buying them. So you have to get some items that you have the markets for. Like if you're trying to sell them on Amazon, a lot of these things you can't sell on Amazon without being ungated, meaning you have to provide invoices, and I've talked about those before too. And we do have some wholesale contracts, so I can supply invoices of a lot of the items I buy. This one, unfortunately, not, but I sold this on several sites too, so anyway, good item here. Let's see here. This one here, I took, I think, 35 on this one here. I had it up for a little while. It's a label off of a crate or case that the wine would have been in. This came from a wine collector. I listed this in the, I believe it was the alcohol, tobacco, wine section. There's a specific section for alcohol, barware related, and that's usually where I stick all of these. It's in the collectibles. These sell fairly well. I've got just maybe $1 or $2 into this. I bought a bunch of them. The person who had them had no clue on the age, and they had a bunch of just crate labels at a sale. And I bought a bunch of them. Didn't buy them all. I bought the ones that I figured I could flip, because I'm cheap, obviously. And if I didn't think I had a good enough chance in flipping them quick, even for $1, I'm not going to mess with them. Let's see here. And again, this one's under the hotel section, collectibles, advertising. And this one here we did sell for $12.50. This came in a collection. I have a couple more collections that we just purchased, so I may show you some more labels, like a whole bunch all at once in another video coming up soon. But we did sell for $12.50. This is Victorian trade cards. Now this one's quite unique. This one could be considered a poster stamp, and this one did come in a I wouldn't say poster stamp collection, but a cover collector's collection. And there were some other stamps and some other things in there. This one I did sell for $25 straight out, so it was a pretty good item. This one you could list in Cinderella's, which is in the poster stamp section or postage section, or Victorian trade cards. Either one of those is good on something like this. Now, I buy stuff like this too from crafters and scrapbookers especially. I'm going to show you a lot in a minute here that I did get from a scrapbooker in just a minute. I got, I think, 12 out of this one here. It's a nodder. It's early. Now, I bought a whole big box of dogs, ceramic dogs, and I believe I showed them in a video a while ago. I haven't gotten them all up until just the other day, and then I sold a bunch of them, pretty much. I'm almost gone, or almost done with all the dogs that I had, and I had like 42 or 43 dogs, if I remember, all ceramics of some type. I only have like maybe 6 or so sets or 6 or so pieces left from that left at this point. I don't mess with much pottery or ceramics, but if I can walk up on something really cheap, I mean, I've got like 50 cents into most of these, and I've been averaging to 10 to say $30 a piece on the ones that are in here. But anyway, that one was a good one. Nodder-wise, they always sell. And there's a collectibles section, lunch boxes, nodders, and that's where this one goes. Or you could have listed it in collectibles, and then animals, and then dogs. So there's a couple areas you can list them in. This one, Victorian trade cards. This is more of a ticket than anything else. Now, I took 180 on this one. Now, I've talked about tickets. I believe this was at like Germanian assembly rooms. I guess this is some oddball place in the Bowery of New York City. So this was a pretty interesting one. I think it sold because it was New York, but you can see the perforation where the ticket stub part was taken, and then the guest gets to keep this part. And it was 50 cents, most of these I think I saw back then in the 1880s. So this was a very expensive event. Again, trade cards, Victorian trade cards. I took 180 on this one. Now, the same person bought a couple. This one I took 150 on. One of these was from the Madison Square Gardens, but I guess this was not it. But you can see the 50-cent price tag. Somebody stamped complimentary on this one, so this one meant that they literally just gave this one away. And you can see this perforations on the edge over there, too. So perforated tickets are usually the best. This literally came in a collection of paper items, mostly tickets and receipts, banknotes, and canceled checks. This was all mixed in there, and I got quite a few of these, and so I was pretty happy. I've got nothing into it, a couple bucks at the very, very, very most. Most people, when they see these, think first they're foreign, so they're not worth much money, and second that they're probably new because of the condition, and they don't look at the dates so much. It's perforated on the bottom. It's even a numbered ticket. This one was $2. Terrace Gardens, it's an old, like a restaurant, hotel slash. I've had stereo view cards from like 1860s of the Terrace Garden. Same spot. This is in New York, too, if you're unaware. But I always look for these kind of things. Any of these tickets. And I've got probably another 8 or 10 tickets left. All paid for. This person bought $510 in 2 tickets. This one went for $180. The other one $180 and then $150. So $510 from one person in one day's purchase. That day we did like $1,200, and then the next day I had a couple big sales. So we had 2 back-to-back $1,000+ days. That's always a nice plus, and that's just this week. So anyway, this week's been pretty good. Now this one came from a state sale. I did list this one in Victorian trade card section because people collect the paper, look for it a lot in that section. Maybe not the best section for some people to list in or some items, but things like this do sell very well in there. And this has Queen Victoria in it, and that's why I listed it in there, because anybody who collects vintage Queen Victoria papers or Raphael Tuck items from the Queen or the King literally are going to look in that section. So and again, it's Flags of the World set. This is actually a Raphael Tuck, I am almost sure of, but it's not marked, so I don't like to list it that way. This, as I said, came from a scrapbook collector, and she got it from some show. I got a bunch of paper from her. It's not all old like this. Some of it dates up and even to the 50s, because when you see these lots at scrapbooker shows and scrapbooker places and sales, they don't know the age on a lot of these, and who knows where they even got it at that point. But I know the age on these. I knew it was old immediately. I had a real good gist on it being Raphael Tuck, but I just can't put that in the listing without knowing for sure. But anyway, this one did sell for $57.50. It was up for less than a day, so that was a quick turn on my investment. I paid off every single thing I bought at that sale all at once. This one's Coin Banks, Collectibles. There's actually a section for that. Now, I had this up for a little while. I took $12.50 on it. Plus, obviously, they paid shipping. It looks like a book. It's just a bank. This one had one of the photo losses. You can see there's only one photo, so I just took the money on it. I could have probably taken a few more photos or pulled them back up or something, but I just didn't want to mess with it. Anyway, I still have a few that are missing photos, as I said. I haven't worried about them unless somebody asks, and then I take care of it. But this is from the June mishap that eBay had. No big deal. I'm still selling the items. It was, a quarter, 50-cent item. I bought a bunch of banks. This might even have been in a haul like 3 or 4 months ago anyway. This one I paid a quarter for, or a nickel. It's just a little pin, and again, this is another one of those that lost the image for the back, unfortunately. So I just blew this one out at $10, and it's just a little pin. I mean, I've got nothing into it. Let's see, next item. Now, this is none of those cheapo items that I got. I got a quarter, 50 cents into it. This is 70, 60, 70s. It still has candy in it, believe it or not. And it did sell for $22. I sold several of these on different occasions. What I do is, again, as I said, I only list 1 or 2 at a time. But I do that with a lot of things just to help sell it better. You never flood the market either, because there might only be one or two people looking for certain items. This is in holiday, in the collectibles holiday, and then Halloween, of course. Next one here. Again, dollar record. This one $34.50. It's sold pretty straight out. When You Wish Upon a Star is what it's sold. And it's Deanna the Bellmets. Now, this is a jute box only. It's a 33 1/3 7-inch. Same size as a 45, but it's got the small center hole. It would have come with like strips for the jute box, which unfortunately aren't here. The condition's really good for one of these jute boxes. It doesn't say that, but you have to just understand the numbering, like ST7, the way it's dashed off like that. Those are almost always promos of some type, and just the structure of the disc itself. So it did sell for $34.50. I sold a bunch of records, as I always do, 78s across the board and all that kind of stuff too. This one went for $50. Yeah, this is another one of those odd ones where the images were lost, unfortunately. But it still sold for $50. The person was happy with it. 3 cards like this. So anyway, all 3 different cats. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, the loss in the photos here, there, as I said, there are some, but it just, for the amount of stuff I have up, I still sell it. You saw the last 3 items were just ones missing photos. I don't know what the deal is, but I sold a bunch out of that single section lot there too. So anyway. Now I had a bunch of these. You can see there's still 4 more available. I paid 50 cents or $1 for a bunch of these. I just sold one for $27.50. So, I can't complain, because I have $5 at most in all of them. And then I'll sell them all. So, and I got, I think, like 20 or 30 forks at the same time. And I've sold most of them. This one turned out not to be as popular as the other ones, but I made a couple $100 off that purchase, and I still have a few pieces left, 4 here, and I think 2 other ones. In this, I listed in the Civil War section: Collectibles, Militaris, Civil War. Postcards. This is the military section here. This is a World War II. Oh, actually, I listed this in the World War I section, under the German section in World War I, military. I took 15 on it. I purchased a huge lot of these, and I sell 1 or 2 a week on those on average, and have for the last 5 months since I put them up. They've been paid for like 5 times over, this lot, at least. Probably more than that. And, the first day I listed a bunch of these, I sold some right off the bat, really high price too. So anyway, it's probably like 10 times what I got into them or more. But anyway, that was a good one. This is postcards, military for sure on this one, is where I listed it. And the guy's name's ID'd on the back and all, if I remember. Yeah, his name was on the back. It says who he is and where he was at and the whole works. It was interesting. It's hand-colored. It's a real photo that somebody's taken a wash over to. I was lucky enough to find some of the vintage 1930s and before coloring that's used on these postcards. So I've recreated some of the vintage style with that same ink paint. I'm not even really sure what it is. It looks like a paint, but I'm almost sure it's an ink, just by looking, smelling, and the way it dries and all. But anyway, it's kind of interesting. But again, I took 15 on that one. Records, of course, and this is 45. This one went for $75. About average on this one. I've had 2 or 3 of these this year alone. This one shows up locally around here for whatever reason. That's one thing you need to do is, I've said this before, look up stuff what shows up locally so you know what to look for, So, because there's I went in, sometimes I might see 5,000-10,000 records for sale at one time. And you really got to be able to sparse this down, or either be able to effectively purchase a huge lot of them really cheap and know you're going to get money back. So you've got to have some idea on some of the records. You can't sit there all day and look them up. The guy's going to get mad, or whoever's selling them might not like that. So you've got to have a quick ability to search through these if you're going to play that market on this. But again, this one went in the teen. I put soul in the title, and then I listed it in the teen section on records, the genre for teen. Print ad, Victorian trade cards, this was listed in. It did sell for $24.50 on this one I took. So this is a perfect example. It's small. This one's a newer one too, probably late 1890s, maybe 1900 at the very, very newest. But it was a pretty good item. I just ripped up newspaper, magazine, or something that I probably had $1 in. I've cut up many of those. Whenever they're ripped up and damaged, I just yank them apart. I bag them all and carded like comic book things, like the card backing with the actual poly bag for the comic book, and I'll just stack up hundreds of them in one of those. I'll sort them before I do that, of course, so I can just pull a bunch at once and have somebody mess with them. So anyway, let's move on here. This one's Victorian trade cards. This is a International Exhibition 1876. Now, this probably was on a box or something for a specific... it's a Spanish wine, basically, so it's probably on a wine box of some sort. I took 35 on that one. Again, Victorian trade cards. And this one's a damage. You can see the white up at the top. That's actually damage to it. This sold for $22.50. It's an interesting piece. The person who bought it must know what it's from. I believe there's a set or something like this. This was actually issued cut like this. It's a very nice Art Nouveau image. I really liked it. I kept a copy of the face of it just for my own reference, because that border is pretty awesome as well too, as is the flowing hair. I love the styling of that. But anyway, $22.50, and it's damaged. And I got this in with a bunch of stuff. I believe there was some actual postcards or something I got with that lot. I've had this for a while. I've got a couple more similar styles, probably from the same set even, but could even be, for all I know, a tobacco card that wasn't printed on the back for some reason. Now this is a Certain Corn Cure. That's the name of it, Certain Corn Cure, quack medicine bottle kind of thing, with a pig on there. But this one sold fairly well. I took 45 on this. It was up for, maybe a week or two, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Victorian trade cards it was listed in. This is in the tobacco section, collectibles. There's a lighter section, and that's where I put this at. This could have went in advertising as well, because it's LOF, Libby Owens Ford. It's a local company. I get these kind of things all the time. And I do mean all the time. Every week I could probably end up with a couple of these style of lighters. There's so many ex-employees around here that this just constantly turns up, just like Champion spark plug items and the little miniature spark plugs that I sell constantly for $10 a piece. But anyway, I paid $2 for this, I think. Maybe $1. It was somewhere in that range. I never spend more than that on them. I'll just pass, because I get lighters all the time, and I've showed tons of lighters in the past. I sell them in lots. I sell them singly. Zippos sell well too, but anyway. Just have a couple more items here. Now these are all in the tobacco cigar labels section under collectibles. Easy enough to find. Another cigar label. This one I sold to a person who buys from me constantly. And this one I put up at auction. It was up for a while. I sold all the really nice ones as a bin, and the leftovers usually I'll just blow them out at some point, or I'll list some new ones, and then I'll put these up around that same frame and relist them about that time, maybe as an auction or something, trying to drum up business from both aspects. So you advertise in this listing that you have other ones for sale, and then in the other listing that's a bin only, you list that you have other ones for sale too, and that way you get like some cross advertisements from either one. So whenever I list multiple of the same genre or category, I always state in the listing that I have many other ones available, so in different categories even. So $24.50 on this one here. I've got nothing into this, so it's long since been paid for. And this one went to the same person, $14.99. Another cigar box label. I believe this is a Geo Harris and Sons. Geo George Harris and Sons. It's the name of the company. You just have to know that, I guess. Harris and Son is, some of them just say that. Some of them just say Harris and Co. It depends on what time frame the business printed the item you're looking at. But this is a true engraving too. Very nice image though. Not worth a lot of money. I don't even know the name of this specific label. It's hard to look up ones that you don't know a name on it, but you put up the company name and what the scene is, and usually you can get a good price or a good idea on price on it. But that's the last one I have. Again, this one went in tobacco cigar labels as well too. So hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts, but that's what I have for you today. Well, there you go. There's some items we sold. Hopefully that gives you some ideas and some thoughts on what we do sell and how we do make this work. But again, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when we post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.